Former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, backing down just days before a planned House vote to hold them in criminal contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena. In a message to House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer of Kentucky, attorneys for the Clintons said the pair would appear for depositions on mutually agreeable dates and asked the House to not move forward with contempt proceedings. Comer says he's rejected that offer, arguing their attorney's latest letter makes clear they still expect special treatment because of their last name. And I'll also add, this has been a back-and-forth discussion behind the scenes about when and how they will testify. There was an offer at one point to do this at their home in Chappaqua, to do this privately. I mean, there's been a few of these offers going forward. So it's not been dead silence in response to the subpoena. Meanwhile, a Manhattan federal judge is set to hold a hearing tomorrow on whether to shut down the Justice Department's Epstein Files website after victims' names were improperly disclosed. In a letter, attorneys for the alleged victims argue widespread failures by the DOJ to redact names and other identifying information in the most recent batch of released documents has turned the lives of nearly 100 survivors, quote, upside down. Attorney General Pam Bondi acknowledged the errors, saying the DOJ worked through the weekend to remove thousands of documents and media files that may have exposed identifying information, blaming technical or human error. I want to bring in Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan. I want to start there with the Clintons because it felt like we were driving towards a vote on this on Wednesday. The Rules Committee abandoned the vote that would have been able to keep that schedule. So it seems like for now it's on pause. But what are the dynamics within the caucus on this vote, especially as it seems like there is a conversation behind the scenes to get the Clintons in? I know it's not moving nearly as quickly as Republicans want it to, but doesn't that count for something?
I think that what has become very clear, and I have talked to members, Democratic members of the committee who voted yes in committee because they believe we should be consistently treating everybody. But the game plan has been done at the Oversight Committee of the Clintons agreed, I don't know the exact facts,
yeah.
I do know, agreed to testify on Epstein and have Comer agreed to that. He wouldn't agree to it. It was very clear they were on a fishing expedition trying to embarrass a lot of people. They are not subpoenaing other people that should be subpoenaed in the same way.
Yeah.
So I think that what you saw was political gamesmanship. And by the way they're trying to create chaos, so we're not focusing on was the president involved in Epstein or some of these papers that are coming out now. I'm stunned at some of the names who happen to be in our administration.
Yeah.
Are we asking those people to come in? Are we subpoenaing them? Or is this another one of the distractions? And we've got to demand, we need the answers. Everybody's got to be treated the same way. And it needs to not be political. We need to remember we're doing this for the survivors, for those that were the victims.
Yeah, and they've had, even just after this latest tranche of documents released, 40 days late, I would add, they've had their lives once again turned upside down and are being forced into the position of figuring out, okay, are we getting the transparency that the spirit of this law actually demands? And so it's very much a live ball and a live conversation on Capitol Hill about how to compel the full and holistic release transparently and in a nonpartisan way. But if we put a pin in those investigations and pivot to what we're likely to be talking about all day today, which is how does the government ultimately get funded? Is it right to assume that the government does reopen today and then that starts the clock on 2 weeks of really complex negotiations over guardrails within DHS and guardrails on ICE?
There's one thing that's going to determine what happens today, and Republicans are going to have to deliver the vote for the rule. I know that the president was working the phones. I'm not privy to all of, I hear rumors like you do, but Republicans are going to have to, they are going to have the votes for the rule, which is a very process. Yes, for you who are watching this morning, what does that mean? But it means to move forward with the discussion and the vote. Republicans have to get the
way I always talk about rules is they are the procedural hurdle that you need before you actually get on to the substance of what you're voting on. And so I think it's important to say Democrats are saying we're going to stick together on the rule. Republicans have to get us over the procedural hurdle. But then what? Because then it's a very divided caucus.
It is not a divided caucus.
Okay.
We are united. Look, I get schizophrenic. I walk through my airport. I know my TSA workers.
Yeah.
They're tired of being a ping pong ball. I've introduced legislation I did an amendment before we left to the rule. I'm going to try an amendment again that they get paid. But what we have watched, the people in my district are so horrified by what we're seeing on ICE. I'm trying to calm people down. We have a fire and people are putting kerosene on it. And the anxiety that people are living with, fear, little children not going to school. I just could tell you 1,000 things. And if someone else dies in the next 2 weeks while we are getting guardrails on ICE, I can't look anybody in the eye. And I think a lot of members feel that way.
What are the guardrails, though, that could get a bipartisan group of members to yes, right? Because I'm under no illusion that this is going to be all Democrats or all Republicans. It's going to have to be a mix.
It does need to be a mix. Privately, I am talking to people that are very disturbed out of what they have seen and witnessed.
Republicans.
Republicans. Yeah. Democrats are. Anybody I know is deeply disturbed. But I know Republicans are, too. So we'll have to talk to them, see if we can bring some of them along. But on the other hand, this is a point at which, when do you use the leverage that you have? We're in the minority, but I think the minority in Congress right now represents the majority of people in this country who are horrified in what they have seen. 2 Americans killed. 1, last words of her life. It's okay. I'm not mad at you. With wheels turned out, trying to drive away, and an intensive care nurse who, I'm in VA, I'm in hospitals all the time talking to people. An ICU nurse, first thing they do when they see somebody needs help is to go to help him. And he's dead. And how many gunshots? That's just not, talk to any law enforcement officer. And what we witnessed was not okay. And we're detaining Americans. We are putting Americans into these detention centers. We're not giving people due process. At what point do we need to be the voice that we are protecting our country and our democracy? The president made a promise. He was going to get violent criminals off the street. I support him 100% in getting violent criminals off the street. But that 5-year-old boy that we also witnessed the tragic story of is not a violent criminal. And we need to think about who we are and what our hearts and souls are and not lose our compassion and empathy. Cardinal Tobin, New Jersey, a man I deeply respect, is my friend, and my Archbishop in Detroit have both said this is a morality moment.
Yeah.
Cardinal Tobin said, vote no.
These are fundamental American values, and I appreciate you putting them so plainly, because we are going to get bogged down in the politics of negotiating on guardrails, and that's the process. That's how the Hill works. But at the same time, I think it's important to keep our eyes very squarely on the ball here of what we're talking about. We're talking about how do we hold ourselves to the ideals of our country. Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell of Michigan, thank you, as always, for coming on.